Well, this question period, almost every single Conservative got up and asked for an inquiry. And then there's the plethora of poos, the point of orders, that are voted on instantly. And you can see the results of that. It's definitely heating up the calls for a new inquiry.
When someone has the floor, nobody else has should be speaking. I think that we have to afford that respect. The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
The parliamentary secretary wants facts. Here's a fact. A majority of members of this House, representing a majority of Canadians, voted to have a public inquiry and to fire David Johnson. But this Prime Minister continues to ignore that in favour of his cover-up man, his ski buddy, his friend, his Beijing-funded Trudeau Foundation board members. Canadians saw straight through this sham, and they want information, and that's why this House voted for a public inquiry. The Prime Minister might not like it, but that's what this House called for. Will he call one today?
Hear, hear.
Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, Canadians can see when it comes to matters of national security, the Conservatives are just not fit to lead. They are immature when it comes to these matters. Rather than talking about the actual measures and recommendations in the Right Honourable David Johnson's report, instead, if you listen to that member's question, it was nothing but personal political attacks, Madam Speaker. It was not about the interests in Canadians and protecting our democratic institutions. It's about partisan games for the Conservatives. On this side of the House, we're going to focus on protecting Canadian democracy.
Hear, hear.
For Perth Wellington.
Madam Speaker, if the parliamentary secretary wants to protect Canadian democracy, she would have her Prime Minister call a full, public, independent inquiry. That is what this House has twice voted.
Yes, they voted twice to have the, an actual inquiry. But the government of the day here, the Liberal government, has decided to ignore Parliament in this case. I don't think this is going away. All the news have an article about this, and 70% of Canadians want to see an inquiry. Here's more.
Madam Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister's National Security Advisor testified that her office and 3 deputy ministers received a memo warning that a sitting member of Parliament and his family were being targeted by Beijing. A memo that went into a black hole, but according to her, no one is responsible. It's the Prime Minister's job to run the machinery of government, and he has special responsibilities when it comes to national security. So will he finally step up and accept responsibility for this colossal failure under his watch?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, Infrastructure and Communities.
Madam Speaker, we will never tolerate foreign state actors attempting to intimidate, whether it's members of this House, members of diaspora communities, or any Canadians. We take this matter extremely seriously. David Johnson's report has indicated areas that need improvement in policy and communication. We take that work extremely seriously. The Prime Minister, prior to the release of the report, said we would implement those recommendations. We're looking at that very closely. The Minister of Public Safety is going to make sure that gaps like that are closed.
Hear, hear.
St. Albert, Edmonton.
Here.
Madam Speaker, consistent with the Prime Minister not taking responsibility, one of his ministers claims that he isn't responsible for not reviewing a memo sent to his attention warning that the member for Wellington Halton Hills was being targeted by Beijing. He blames CSIS.
Then here comes the point of orders, the plethora of point of orders, one after another, the Conservatives put forward, and basically on the same issue of foreign interference. And they keep getting blocked by votes in Parliament. So here's what they have to say about it.
Affairs Committee requesting that the Minister of Public Safety actually appear for 2 hours instead of 1 hour in response to the...
This is pertaining to question period? So, okay, hold on. There's only one speaker in the House. The Honourable Member for Red Deer Lacombe, I would just ask him to get to his point of order.
And in lieu of the answers that were given when the government was asked about foreign interference, We requested through this letter that I would like to table through unanimous consent that the Minister of Public Safety appear for 2 hours. Do I
Already don't have unanimous consent. There's
Do
already
you
unanimous
think
consent.
that the public safety minister should appear for 2 hours, as was requested in that point of order? Or do you think we should just go straight to the inquiry, which could take up to 2 years? Leave your comments down below. And then here's this. This last clip is the other poo that point of order
St. Albert, Edmonton.
by MP Cooper.
Very much, Madam Speaker, on a point of order arising from question period. I posed 2 questions to the government relating to the testimony of the Prime Minister's National Security Advisor, Jody Thomas, and the Minister of Emergency Preparedness, who was then Minister of Public Safety. And I am seeking the unanimous consent of this House to table the blues from yesterday, wherein the National Security Advisor indicated that 3 deputy ministers, as well as her office, had received the memo indicating that the member for Wellington-Halton Hills and his family had been targeted by the Beijing regime, and the further testimony of the Minister of Emergency Preparedness, who incredibly claimed that it was CSIS's fault for the fact that he hadn't read a memo that was sent to himself and his Chief of Staff, also indicating that the member for Wellington-Halton Hills was a target of the Beijing regime. We have a Prime Minister who...
Be more a point of debate. Can the honourable member come to his point?
Madam Speaker, I'd ask unanimous consent to table the blues from yesterday from the Procedure and House Affairs Committee, in which that testimony, shocking testimony from both the Minister and the Prime Minister's...
Have unanimous consent to table the blues? No, we don't have unanimous consent to table the blues. The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland has a point of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And in light of some comments made by members of the New Democratic Party in this House rising out of question period, I would like to seek unanimous consent to table the most recent results of the Alberta election, which show a whopping majority by a strong united Conservative Party.
So this Friday question period was basically one after another Conservative saying that they want the inquiry, and the Liberals just basically saying, no, we've done enough. And why Pierre Poliver isn't there? He's in Manitoba today, heading off of Maxime Bernier, there's a by-election happening in Manitoba. That was where, if everyone remembers, where Maxime was arrested for violation of COVID restrictions or whatnot. I have to Google exactly what it was, but it was a minor arrest. And they received, the PBC had 20% in that riding. That's Bergen, MP Bergen, who was the interim leader. It's her riding. So basically, Pierre Poliver's out there to shore up the vote, make sure the Conservatives get it. What do you think? I think the polling shows that it's a Conservative win, though it looks like they're taking no chances allowing the PPC any type of foothold, because Maxime Bernier not having a seat in Parliament really basically puts him out of the game 99%, right? It's difficult when you're not an MP. And when it comes to raising money, the PPC versus the Conservatives raised like $8.4 million, whereas the PPC raised $300,000. Though they received a lot of votes in this particular riding. Not enough to win, but what do you think? Like, subscribe. Have a good day.